This episode of 4Tims a Podcast was brought to you by Football Prizes. What better way to pay tribute to the Celtic 21-22 champions by winning a Joe Hart signed and framed Celtic shirt. As you know, in our end of season awards, Joe Hart was the 4Tims Player of the Season, so we're delighted to say that Football Prizes, who I'm sure you know we have had a great partnership with for I think all of 2022, maybe a bit of 2021 as well. They're giving away a Joe Hart signed and framed Celtic shirt. There's also a number of instant win prizes as well along with this one, including a Jota montage and this season's away kit, which has proven to be a fan favourite already. If you want to go and get involved in that, go to footballprizes.co.uk and you'll see this in their list of amazing prizes that they've got on offer at the moment. And if you use the code 4Tims10, you'll get 10% off your ticket purchases as well. We'll get right back into it now. Today is the 28th of June. It's a Tuesday night. Celts are back in pre-season, so we thought it would be apt that we get back in. I'm sure last week you heard Andy, Tony and new member of the team, Kieran, discuss what was going on in the world of Celtic. Well, you've got the rest of us on the night. You've got myself, Darren, and I'm on with Danny. And as we alluded to in last week's episode, we've got another new member of the team. So I'll bring you straight in. Brian, it's great to have you joining up with 4Tims as part of the PodTims network. What can listeners expect from you, and how does it feel to be on the number one Celtic podcast?
Thanks very much for having me on. It feels amazing. It seems like months ago that I sent that. It wasn't such an application email, it was more a begging letter to you guys to actually get me on. So, but something I've been wanting to do for a long time, talk about Celtic, and hopefully can bring some good pieces of feedback and all that towards what we're trying to do with the podcast. I think we're looking to move forward with the likes of YouTube content and more kind of video content. I think we've obviously already seen Tony was on last week with Juan Arango, who talking about Bernabe, which was a really good video to get out there. So just doing things like that, engaging with the fans, and basically just talking nonsense about Celtic with you guys, to be honest with you. So that's what I'm going to be looking forward to doing over the next wee while. So can't wait.
Aye, as you say, we're really looking to ramp up the YouTube content, and I know maybe some of you only subscribe to our YouTube at present, but as Brian says, we have released an episode on there last week, which was Tony speaking to Juan Arango, who was an expert on Bernabe, who the signing seems pretty imminent and may even happen during the course of this episode. That's what usually happens. We released last week's episode and then Benjamin Siegrist got announced a minute later. But Danny, it's great to have some different voices on the pod this season coming up, because I don't know about you, but I was getting pretty sick of Tony and Andy.
Aye, of course. I think they're getting sick of us all, to be honest. So it's always good to have fresh voices. I think after three seasons, Darren and I, it's good to freshen it up and get new voices in, because it's just all about adapting, and it's all about adapting and evolving and taking things to the next level. And I think we've pretty much got the sitting talking rubbish about Celtic done to a T. So it's always nice to try and expand what we are doing. And obviously there's a lot of competition, but obviously it's friendly competition. We're good pals with a lot of folk that do this, so they've a lot of folk have moved the bar up a wee bit last season and stuff, so it's high time that we started not just keeping up with them but overtaking them, and hopefully Brian and Kieran will be catalyst we need to do just that.
Yeah, definitely. So I don't know, we'll start. We'll look at Celtic's transfer activity. There's been bits and pieces happening so far, most notably obviously Cameron Carter-Vickers signing for about $6.5 million. The fee could rise depending on add-ons, but it's great to have him on board. I think we also get Benjamin Siegrist in as well, who's going to be good backup to Joe Hart. I'm sure he'll be hoping to challenge Joe Hart as well. And we do look like we're very, very close to announcing Bernabe, as I alluded to. We're recording Tuesday night. It may break at some point tonight. I know Celtic, when they announced Carter Vickers, it was about 7:30 on a Friday night, was it? But Brian, I'll come to you. What have you made of Celtic's sort of post-season? And I know they are back in pre-season now, especially their transfer activity. We've got a few bodies on board already. It looks like more are on the way. What have you made of it?
Well, I think it's good progress. Signing Carter Vickers was obviously a no-brainer, wasn't it, after what he'd done last year? So I think we were all delighted that on the very first day of the transfer window, the official opening, that we got him announced. We were all delighted about that. So it just adds a little bit more stability at the back. And I think bringing Siegrist in, some people can, I don't know about what you guys think, can get a bit uppity about signing, another goalkeeper when we've got likes of Bain and we've got the young boy who I can't pronounce his name in the reserves. But Siegrist is probably the best goalkeeper outside Joe Hart in the SPFL. I think he's proved it time after time against us and against other teams as well. So I think that was a really good bit of business, free transfer as well, and so a really good bit of business. And remember, Joe Hart was only a 2-year deal, so he's only got a year to go. He's still 35, 36, so there's a good chance that he'll stay. But Siegrist is obviously that experienced backup coming in that I think we need. Scott Bain, don't know what you guys think, but I just think there's always a problem with Scott Bain when he comes in. He's decent, but he's no more than that. He's not Celtic class as far as I'm concerned. So a few players going out the door as well. I think we've seen today Adam Montgomery. He's away to St Johnstone on loan, which I think is a good move for him. Obviously, he spent last year at Aberdeen, so probably tells you a little bit about where Ange sees his future with the club. So Bernabei, as we know, as you've said, is the worst kept secret in football that he's signing. He's been seen in Glasgow, and I seen on Twitter earlier about an Argentinian source saying that a medical had happened. So great to get him in. Really exciting bit of business, I think. Don't know a lot about him, but signing a player, an Argentinian left back, just excites me. It really gets me really feeling positive about what we're trying to do. If you look at Juranovic on the right hand side, that's a real kind of good balance we've got there with attacking flair. So I'm really excited about that, and still got plenty of time to go in the window. Obviously Jota is having a time of his life just now. I don't know how many holidays this boy's been on. We've seen him all over the world, Mexico, Ibiza, but God knows what he's up to. But the good thing about that for me is that there's been no links with any other team. So you normally, when something drags on, there's somebody else is getting linked with him. But I don't know if I've maybe missed that, but I haven't heard anything about any other team coming in for him. So I think I'd like to get that done, seeing as how the boys are back in pre-season and all that. I'd like to see him. But I'm confident that Ange has got a plan, and I think that's a big thing for him. As we'll kind of maybe talk later on about his plans for the future of the club. You can see that taking place already this year. I don't think he wants a repeat of last year where he's bringing in 10, 12 players in one window and then another 4 or 5 in the next window. He doesn't want to do that. So I don't know what you guys think about that.
I agree. I think that obviously you need to get a lot better every year, but last year was a complete anomaly. Signing basically a full new team one window and then having to sign, what was it, 5 in January? 3 Japanese boys, O'Reilly and maybe just the 4, but it was...
It's Johnny Kenny as well.
Well, there you go. So bonkers. I mean, I think a lot of what Brian says is right. I think Carter Vickers was a no-brainer, complete no-brainer. Siegrist is a good sign. I've yet to be 100% convinced by him. I think a lot of folk are quite happy with it, so I'm kind of deferring to them. Always got to worry about keepers that are great against Celtic, and he's had a really good few games against us. It's kind of the concentration levels when they come into a team where they're not going to make 10, 15 saves a game. So, but he looks good enough. He can play as a backup. I'm pretty sure Ange's use of him will point us towards how he sees Joe Hart going forward. Do you ease Siegrist in this season to become number 1 next year, and let Joe Hart go, or are you planning for Joe Hart? I mean, I would imagine they're planning on keeping Joe Hart for at least another 2 years after this, I would think, but who knows. And Jota is just, I don't know what the hold up is. I'm sure he'll sign. I mean, I'm convinced he'll sign. Everybody in their granny thinks he'll sign it. I just don't know what the hold up is at the minute, if they've agreed a fee. And I mean, the fee's been agreed since last August, if you believe the reports. So I mean, who really knows? Hopefully that'll get done soon. And then I think Bernabei looks, I mean, I've only seen a bit of him, clips like everybody, probably the same clips everybody else has seen, but he looks like a defender that likes to get forward, likes to join in the attack. Not just get forward physically, and have a presence, but he likes to actually get the ball further up the pitch, which is exciting. Everybody knows I'm a fan of Greg Taylor, but I think if we could find a left back that is going to, be better than Taylor going forward, especially with the way that Ange wants us to play, Dan, that's obviously going to be a plus for us. And then you look, where do you need a player? Do you need to replace Rogic, or was Matt O'Reilly Rogic's replacement? Do you buy more midfielders? I'm looking for a kind of destroyer in the middle of the park that will allow McGregor to get further forward. But apart from that, I mean, how many positions do you think, Dan, that we need to strengthen in that maybe haven't been spoken about already?
If I'm being honest, I think we need another winger on top of Jota. I'm with you. I think Jota's going to sign. I know everybody on Twitter and whatever seems to have been in the know about when he was going to sign. There's been must be about 7 or 8 different dates that people have said, and the newest one is, we need to wait till July 1st, so it's no in this year's accounts. And I don't know what the hold up is. I know some people panicked when he wasn't at the first day of pre-season. I mean, wasn't in the videos anyway, but I also noticed on Twitter that day that Benfica's first day of pre-season was the same as us, and he wasn't in any photos as well. So I'm completely confident. Like as Brian said, he just seems to be sort of globetrotting at the moment. He was in Ibiza, then New York, and then Mexico as well. And like I know it's been said before that wherever you're in the world, you'll see a Celtic fan. Well, Jota seems to have been able to pick them out because he seems to have been hanging about with them. So I'm pretty confident that will get done this week. Maybe it is a sort of July the 1st thing, but I don't think it's one where, even like you think back to like a year and a half ago when Eddie Howe sort of strung us along, I don't think it's anything like that where we're going to get let down late on, or even like Fraser Foster when we thought he was coming back, and then that sort of didn't happen. But on top of that, I'd like another winger. I know Dyson's played well at left, and Abada had a fantastic first half of the season. I know he sort of fell away a bit towards the end, but I feel that having two really that you can rely on in each side would be brilliant. I know Forrest has got his new deal. I know it's sort of divided opinion in our group chat. I wasn't massively for it, but he's obviously there. I know he didn't play too much last season, but obviously scored a few important goals against St Johnstone in the semi-final, and that goal at Livingston as well. But apart from if you take Maeda, Abada, and I'm including Jota as signing, then I don't know how confident I'd be if any of them sort of dropped out and you were relying on guys like Forrest and Mikey Johnston. I know it's a fresh season and hopefully they just hit the ground running and make me eat my words, but I'd like sort of better quality put in there. Centre half's one that I look at as well. I know Christopher Julian was out saying that he's going to stay and fight for his place, but if I'm being honest, I wouldn't be surprised if he sort of tried to sound out a move and found out that he's not going to get anywhere near the sort of money that he's on at Celtic, and that nobody's really keen on him after his long injury layoff. I used to be a massive fan of Julian, especially during that 9-0 season, but I just felt it was obviously a massive year out for him, and you don't know how that's affected him. But I think it was his comments before the Motherwell game that really sort of soured it for me, because he seemed to almost demand that Ange played him in that game, and Ange just left him out the squad, I'm sure, that day. And I don't know, if you get Julian the old back, then it's a decent centre half to have there. But apart from Starfelt and Carter Vickers, again, I've said with the wingers, it's what's in behind him that I'm not massively confident on. I know Stephen Welsh is obviously still developing and hopefully improves as well, but I just like one more real bit of quality in there. And as you say, the midfield, a central midfielder that's probably a bit more defensive minded, especially for going forward in Europe. We need somebody in there who, as you put it, is going to be a sort of destroyer. I know with the guy Souza and a few others, but I don't know. It's just I feel that we really need somebody in there if we are going to make an impact on the Champions League. And it'll be interesting to see. I know you've got obviously Edeguchi, who got hit with an injury no long after he joined. Maybe he's a player that Ange has got full belief that he'll make more of an impact this season. But when you take out the likes of McGregor, Turnbull, and O'Reilly, you've not got much there. I know obviously Rogic and Beaton have departed, who played massively important roles for us last season, Rogic especially, but even Beaton had these important games that Ange brought him in for. So I'd like to think that Ange has got people in mind to come in and sort of fill the gap that these guys who are massive contributors over the last decade to Celtic will leave. But I don't know about you, Brian, but the talk last night all on Twitter, all I could see was every second tweet people saying that Celtic should just go out and get Jordan Larsson on a free. His contract had been mutually terminated at Spartak Moscow. Now, I know Giakoumakis and Kyogo had great halves of the season, and obviously Kyogo the first half and Giakoumakis the second half, but a lot of people feel that we need a sort of third striker. They don't have much faith in a guy like Albion Ajeti to fill the void if the two were missing. Would you bring Jordan Larsson in?
I mean, firstly, Ajeti can just do one. For me, he's just not an Ange player. You've seen it. He can go. As far as I'm concerned, we'll probably lose money on it as well. I think it was at 5.5 or 5 million we paid. So yeah, he's not an Ange player. The Jordan Larsson thing, I did see that. Now, while I think if you look at it, taking his name out of it, if you look at, there's a striker from Spartak Moscow, it's become available. You go, I would maybe take a look at that because you've seen, what he can do. I don't know if the pressure of coming to Celtic, I don't know his character. If he's anything like his old man, then he's going to be ice cool and he's going to fit in really well. And he's still young, but I don't know the expectations having someone like the son of the greatest striker that we've ever seen at Celtic Park in my lifetime anyway. That's a real burden for me for him to come in. He would be under pressure immediately. But if he's on a free transfer, then why not take a look at him? I'm sure, the Celtic scouting department is on it, and obviously recruited a new head of recruitment last year. So yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if there is certainly some form of analysis on him and maybe what you take a look at him. But I just feel it would be hugely exciting, don't get me wrong. I mean, a guy like, just to have Larsson on the back of a Celtic shirt again would be incredible. Imagine the shirt sales. Let's not go down that road. I'm not interested in shirt sales, but that's the type of exciting signing that I think the fans would want. I just don't know if Ange, being the type of manager that he is, would be comfortable having someone who would probably become quite, I don't know what the kind of wording is, but maybe bigger than the rest of the team because of his name. He's got to come in and do the business, obviously, but I don't know about you guys. I mean, listen, deep down, there's a part of me that would love to have him at Celtic, but I just don't know about the pressure and if he's an Ange type of signing, if Ange would have someone like that who's not a big name in Europe, but he would be a big name coming to Scotland. I don't know what you guys think about that.
No, I don't, Danny. I'm pretty pessimistic about the chances. As Brian says, it's something I think fans would love to see. I know Giakoumakis is obviously number 7 now. Maybe Jordan could come in and wear number 77, but I think it is just sort of pie in the sky stuff at the moment. I can't really see it being something that Ange is looking at. Maybe it is because Jordan Larsson obviously showed some good form to get his move, and he was scoring goals in Russia. I know he got loaned out to, I think it was AIK Stockholm over the last few months, obviously because of the situation in Russia and that. But do you think it's a realistic possibility?
Brian really wants to say aye, but
he does.
But he's like me. I'm the same. If Celtic turned on tomorrow and announced it, I wouldn't be like upset or gutted. You know what I mean? I wouldn't be disappointed. I can't see it. There's a few. I think he's a good player. Is he what we need? I don't know. But we do need a kind of left-footed striker, something a wee bit different. It's a massive risk for Celtic, but it's also a massive risk for him to come in, and he knows he'll know the pressure that he's under almost immediately. But if it worked, it would be amazing. But football's not really, doesn't always work like that, does it? So I can't see it happening. I think Celtic will stay well clear. I think you probably have another move or something lined up elsewhere. But it's a bit of a pipe dream. If it worked, it would be amazing. But I can't see it.
Nah, and I could sort of set a precedent because I did notice the other day that fan favourite of the pod, Neil Lennon, his boy made his debut for Part of Thistle the other night, so it could set a sort of precedent, which I don't know if we want to see Lennon back at Celtic Park. I know we certainly don't, but Danny, I'll bring you in. There was sort of panic amongst the Celtic support last week when Fabrizio Romano suggested that Josip Juranovic was expecting, or that Celtic were expecting him to leave this summer. I know our good pal Stevie from GigPod, I don't know if he's quite recovered, but he's by far his favourite player, and he did really become a fan favourite because of the quality he showed in his first season. Is that a realistic possibility for you that we could lose Juranovic this season? I know Atletico Madrid were the team that were apparently linked to him this week.
If the money's right, then aye, obviously, but I can't see it myself. I think Celtic would need to be ridiculous. It would need to break our transfer record for us to sell Juranovic at the minute, because in 6 months' time he'll be at 5 months' time or whatever, he'll be at a World Cup where he's not only is he Croatia's number 1 right back, he's now the number 1 left back as well. And Croatia tend to do quite well at these tournaments, so plenty of games, plenty of airtime, etc. He's also playing the Champions League for the first time, and with the hype that surrounds around Celtic Park in a Champions League night, there's got to be plenty of teams watching. When Celtic are at home, there's got to be plenty of people watching. So if he's looking for a move, then he's in the absolute prime spot at the minute. I mean, he's about to enter the next 6 months. His career will be a bit mad, I would imagine, if he is looking for a move away. But Celtic should be. I mean, he's on about a 4-year contract. Celtic should not be under any illusions of selling him at the minute. Any notion they should just hold out for 6 months. They got him for what, 2.5 million. They could times that by 10 if the next 6 months go well. Who's to say it will, because things are trending upwards for us. So if he plays well in the Champions League and he's a good World Cup, then Juranovic is going to break our transfer record. So Celtic should not entertain anything at the minute. Plus, it's. I know we all like the player training model, and we like the player trading model, and you need to accept that if Celtic are going to be successful in it, you need to accept that you don't get attached to players and they come in for a year or two and you sell them for a massive profit. But there's just so much unfinished business with this team. I mean, you look at it last year, Juranovic was alright, he was pretty good for the moment he signed. He had a couple of bad games away, Livingston had a rotten game, but generally speaking, he's been very good most of his Celtic career. But I don't think we've ever seen him hit tap for him yet. Which is something that excites me going forward. I mean, he's had some great games, home to Rangers and that, but I don't think we've seen him hit a 5-10 game run. We think, God, that boy's playing the form of his life. So I think that's what he come from. So Celtic would be very foolish, and you'd be disappointed if he left. Like, you'd be gutted, because I've said it for a long time. I think he's probably the best football player at the club, and you hold on to him. You hold on for another season. I'm fully expecting him to leave next summer, but this summer, not at all.
No, definitely. I think, as you say, the fact that we are automatically guaranteed in the Champions League, plus he does have a World Cup coming up with Croatia, he's not going to want to. I can't see him wanting to disrupt his sort of preparation for that. And like, if you go to a team like Atletico or any of the sort of big Premier League teams, you're going to have to battle for your place. And I'm sure he won't want to put his international place in jeopardy. But Brian, if you get any thoughts on that, I know, as Danny alluded to, we do sort of have this player trading model where usually one of our main guys has to go for big money. Should the sort of guarantee of the Champions League money negate that for at least the next 6 months?
I think it has to, because for the reasons that we've just been talking about there. I mean, he's only been at Celtic a year. I think he has, as Danny was saying there, I don't think he's been outstanding for the full year, but he's got a lot of good press at the moment. A lot of people are talking about him. But Celtic are in prime position here, and by the sounds of it, he's not really looking for a move. It's all coming from, agent talk and, the glorious Scottish media that are trying to, sell all of our players, using the kind of Calvin Bassey calculator model. This boy should be worth about 50 million. But, nah, I mean, Celtic don't need to sell him. I don't think he wants to move. As you say, he's got a World Cup coming up, Champions League, playing for the best team in the country. I think he likes the team. He's one of the kind of top men in the team as well. He's got a real respect amongst his fellow players. So, listen, he's got to probably move at some point because he is that good. The player trading model, I don't know whether Celtic are at that point at the moment. Got a lot of players who've just came in the last 12 months, like Juranovic and O'Reilly, who you probably see in years to come. Yeah, they probably will move, but not right now. We've got a lot of football to play, and a lot of exciting times ahead. So why would they jeopardise that? If he goes to Atletico Madrid, who knows? Of course, they're a big team, but they're quite a negative and defensive team. So I don't know if that would, of course, money talks, but is he going to be happy playing that style of football where it's, as I say, very kind of rough and tumble, very kind of combustious type of football? With Celtic, is very, the way we play with inverted fullbacks. He gets a lot of time on the ball. He can, utilise his strengths more. So I think at the moment, no. And I don't think we should be selling anybody just now, to be honest with you, who's been playing well. And, time will come for that. But no, and as I said earlier, he's not making any noises about leaving Celtic, and why should he? You know what I mean? So I think from that point of view, yeah, would definitely be. I'm quite confident. I know Stevie from GigPod was having kittens about it, but especially when you see Fabrizio Romano coming out and saying that there's a link there, everybody kind of sits up because he's the kind of man in the know, but it's still down to the player, really. I'm sure if Celtic get an offer, it'll need to be an unbelievable offer at this point in time for Celtic to sell, in my opinion.
No, I think it's both right. I think Celtic are in a massively strong position in terms of when it comes to selling players at the moment. But we'll keep an eye on it because I think, as Danny said, if mental money did come in, it would be something we'd have to think about. And that obviously every player at Celtic does have a price that would sort of force Celtic to take the money. But we'll move on. It's not just been players that have been coming in. We've also had an addition to the coaching staff. Harry Kewell has joined as the first team coach. That was done a few weeks ago. He's now he's joined up with the team and he's coaching in pre-season, as was seen with the Celtic TV videos that were released the other day. Danny, I'll come to you. As it was announced, it was also announced that Steve McManus would go and work with the B team. That sort of allows, if you want to look at it from an Ange aspect, it's somebody who's worked with Ange for a year, who's going to be working with the B team, which hopefully makes it a lot more fluid in terms of getting the B team prepared in the sort of same ways as the first team. But Harry Kewell has come in. I know I heard Ange when he was interviewed about him. I don't think they necessarily had a work relationship, like in terms of, I don't think they'd worked with each other, but bringing in Australian coaching, this was sort of something that fans maybe expected last summer, but it's a year down the line and Ange has brought in an Australian coach.
Aye, well, we all thought it was Kevin Muscat last year, didn't we? So I think we'll settle for Harry Kewell. I think what you said about McManus, when I first read that, I thought that was just kind of corporate speak for sending him down to King of the Reserves, you know. But when you put it like that, I started thinking about it last week. And I think, well, what you said was right. You know, it's somebody that McManus knows what Ange wants. It's no, you know, as much as it is, it's obviously separate. The B team playing the Lowland League and whatever, but McManus is in there. He'll be telling them, look, this is what the manager expects of you as a player. This is what he expects of you as a person and as a professional. And this is how we want to play football. And it could work out. But I'm excited for Harry Kewell to come in. He was obviously a very, very good player when he was younger at Leeds. I thought he was a brilliant player. He was a good player at Liverpool for a while. Obviously injury prone, but he's had a bit of a coaching career so far. I mean, he was manager of Crawley Town for a couple of years. Went to Notts County. Sorry, I'm just reading his Wikipedia, but he's managed a few teams. I mean, I think he's had 4 head coach jobs. It's not quite worked out for him, so now he finds himself in a really good spot with Ange. I listened to his interview. I was very impressed with what he had to say. I thought he spoke very well, and he'll have. It's just wee things like that, you know. He'll have experience of big games. You know, at Leeds, I think he played in the Champions League semi-final. He'll have, you know, just wee things he can pass on to players. You know, it's not going to make them better, you know, overnight, but it can plant the seeds. You know, psychology, it can help them. He's obviously have plenty of skill to pass on. Hopefully, he can teach a few tricks to some of the wingers. But it's not really, you know, I tend not to get too caught up in these coaching things, but I think it is important that Angie's got his man, you know, so we'll see how it works out. But if if things don't go well, then it'll be his, you know, he'll be taking training, it'll be his fault and all that, but that just comes part and parcel with it, I'd imagine.
I definitely, as you say, like, see, at first when I seen the news about McManus going to the B team, I was sort of going with what a few people had said, says, McManus has just been the one that they've made room for Kewell, putting him back to the B team. But Brian, I'll bring you in. As Danny said, it's sort of somebody. McManus is obviously somebody Ange has worked with for a year. I'm sure he's got great trust in him, and something that maybe disappointed some Celtic fans was that they were hoping the B team going into that sort of competitive environment that you'd maybe see quite a few of them step up. Maybe that's not been the case as much as people would have liked it. Having somebody like McManus in there who, as Danny said, knows what Ange expects and what his standards are, do you think that could really help push on some of these boys?
Absolutely. I mean, if you look at the appointment of Kewell and McManus moving to the Colts, I think it's for me, it's not, you know, McManus is getting, you know, pushed to the side. It's the manager seeing we need to have a structure here from the bottom all the way up to the first team. So we need to have whether it's a style of play, levels of professionalism, all that comes from one man, and he's implementing that. McManus, of course, has been at Celtic for most of his career. Spent some time at Motherwell, I think, but yeah, for me, it's a good move for the club, because it shows to me that there's a plan, and if everything that Ange is doing, whether it's recruiting someone like Harry Kewell, who people obviously look at the Australian kind of link, and that's fairly lazy journalism, because as you say there, I don't think they've ever worked together. So it's bringing someone in who's got that level of experience. He was available. I liked his interview again on Celtic TV when he was talking about the fact that he was already going for another job, and he had a good interview with them, and Ange phones him out of the blue. Now, I just don't know if Ange is some kind of oracle. He can see what's happening across the football world and goes, right, I'll just have him, because obviously he made the phone call and Harry Kewell was sold right away. So yeah, everybody will take note of Harry Kewell. He's a big name in British football, really, isn't he, with the clubs he's played for. I think it shows that the club are trying to progress things. If you look at the past recruitment, it's been pretty poor, as we've seen. Brendan Rodgers was a huge example of that, where a great manager, but the recruitment policy at the end was a joke, really, wasn't it? So it's all coming from the manager now. He's setting the standards right from the bottom, right all the way up to the top, and he wants to have that right throughout the club. And I think it's a really good move. We'll, as you say, I think looking at Harry Kewell, if something goes wrong with the left winger, folk will be like, "Oh, it's all Harry Kewell's fault," but at the end of the day, I think it's a good appointment, and it's a positive appointment. We've seen the kind of appointment we had a few years ago with Damien Duff. I'm not saying that's why he's been brought in, but having someone of that level of professionalism coming in can really boost the club and boost the playing squad. So I'm really looking forward to seeing it. But again, not a big appointment, really. I don't really think we should put too much hype on it, because Ange's still a man at the top, and he'll make all the calls. So. But it's a good appointment. I don't have any problem with it at all.
No, it's I can't really disagree with any two you've said. It does seem like a pretty solid appointment, and as Danny's mentioned, a guy like Kewell, he's played at these Champions League sort of high level and knockout phases. So hopefully, any bits of experience he's got will be able to get passed on to the players. But I think we'll just wrap up there, because it is just still pre-season. We'll know what
Darren,
stuff too. Yes, Danny, on you go.
Before we wrap up, I've just thought of something. This might be a discussion for later on, but I'm interested to hear both your thoughts on this. See, with the World Cup finishing in December, do you think the January window will be mad next year? Or do you think it will be this kind of usual quiet self? So I was just thinking about, will we be tempted into losing Juranovic halfway through the season?
Possibly. I think if it is, then the transfer fee will be huge. We've seen it before, haven't we, with previous World Cups, where someone has an absolute blinder and becomes available, and people are kind of bidding exorbitant amounts of money. It could be, yeah, but I don't really have too much of an issue with that. Depends, obviously, how our season is going as well at that point.
Yep.
In terms of moving into the Champions League, if we're still in it, or if we're doing well in maybe moved into the Europa League, perhaps. But it could be a mad one, I think. But
I was just wondering if that you get that usual bounce of just transfer flurry after like a kind of major championship. Something like that always kind of ends up, the merry-go-round, it always ends up affecting Celtic somehow. So I think it ended up like we lost Dembele to Lyon in 2018 because of all the moves that ended up getting made. So I just something to look out for. I just wonder if there is going to be that bounce after a World Cup where.
Can I be controversial, Danny? Like, I think that the way I remember I read an article. I think it was about Lyon, like, and how they sell their players at the absolute, or generally as things go, they sell them at the peak of their ability. And I know, like, we get a lot of criticism last season for people thought we held on to guys like Ayer and Edward and Christie for like a year too long. See if that was the case. And look, as Brian says, I think it's dependent how our season's going. If we sort of bomb out the Champions League and finish bottom of the group and that's Europe done, then as much as Juranovic is a brilliant player, see if he does have a brilliant World Cup and he's played well in the Champions League, then I don't want to say we should be looking to sell him, but you should be looking to generate interest and start a bidding more if it is the case, because the more we do that, the more we'll have money in the bank to then replace these guys. And like, I think they'll try and prove the way they do get the replacements in. I think it was like Montgomery went out on loan today, just as it looks like Bernabei's going to sign. Like Barkas got loaned out at the same day, I think it was, as Siegrist was just about to sign. Like, I think if they already have the replacements sort of identified, then you probably should be looking to sell at the peak of your power rather than just holding on to these guys until their contracts run down a year or two.
So just thinking, who would, obviously we could do this nearer, well, not nearer the time, but in a couple of weeks when the season starts. But like, obviously Juranovic will be going. I mean, I don't know who's in the World Cup, but Carter Vickers might go for USA. So we need to start thinking about. I know the season stops and we don't play, but maybe you know there's a lot of fitness for these guys in short space of time. Maybe you're need another right back, or be you just roll with Alston for 3 or 4 weeks whilst Juranovic can rest. But that's probably a problem for Ange and closer to the time. But I just think this could be a wee bit wild in January, and I think the merry-go-round might affect Celtic, and it might be good for us as well. You know, we might be able to pick up a couple of good players ourselves, but I don't know. I've got a feeling that the transfer world will be mad between January and August next year, and Celtic tend to get caught up in these things, so it could be interesting.
Aye, as you say, it's a conversation for nearer time. We'll know better, but it'll obviously with the World Cup being in, it'll be the first time that these players will play a tournament like that and then still be like sort of in the mid-flow of their season. So it'll be very interesting to see. But aye, as I say, we'll wrap up there. It has been for half an hour now. We're trying to keep these pre-season episodes to about half an hour, work our way into the season. But aye, on behalf of myself, Danny and Brian, it's been great to have you listening to us for this episode, and we will be back at some point next week. Just remember, if you are looking out for more content from us, then check over to our YouTube channel where you'll find more content. We'll have some more things planned for the next few weeks. As I say, Tony's already got an interview with an expert on Argentinian football about Bernabei, so if you've not watched that already, jump over and give it a swatch, and you'll be fully prepared for when he is announced, which I'm sure will probably be in the course of the time it's taken me to edit this episode. But aye, thanks very much for listening, and we will speak to you next week. Cheers.